Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Listen. Welcome everyone. Today we have Balabhadra Prabhu, the praise Balabhadra Prabhu, who is we should consider ourselves very fortunate that Balabhadra Prabhu is able to take some time and spend with us today, almost more than 1 hour. Typically getting this time is not that easy. Okay, so but I would like to introduce Balabhadra Prabhu. Here is the definitely it's time is not enough to tell completely about Balabhadra Prabhu, but I just give you a little brief thing. Okay, so Balabhadra Bhattacharya Prabhu is a direct disciple of the great divine grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of ISKCON. Balabhadra Prabhu joined the Hare Krishna movement in 1973 and received Diksha from Srila Prabhupada in 1974. So meaning within 1 year of getting associated with ISKCON, Prabhu has got initiated, which is not a small thing. Prior to joining the Hare Krishna movement, he was a successful entertainer in the Atlanta music scene during the late 60s and the early 70s. Balabhadra Prabhu served as the president of the Atlanta Hare Krishna Temple for more than 18 years. That's a huge, long tenure, and that has grown a lot during that period. He recently retired as the temple president of ISKCON Philadelphia after serving there for 6 years. He continues there as a board chair. Balabhadra Prabhu was elected as the first African American president of the Vedic Friends Association a 501(c) organization, Vedic organization dedicated to the preservation, promotion and application of Vedic culture and philosophy. Balabhadra Prabhu was the director of the DCAP Interfaith Coalition for Prevention for about 10 years. He is also co-founder of the East Washington Association of Positive Males, an organization based in his hometown, East Point, Georgia. All of us have seen the East Point, right? Going to the airport. That focused on at-risk youth. Balabhadra Prabhu is one of the most respected leaders in the Atlanta Vaishnava and Hindu communities, having served these communities for more than, 48 years. He frequently gives lectures at major Krishna conscious events as well as at lectures at local Atlanta universities such as Morehouse, Emory, Georgia Tech, and Clark Atlanta. Balabhadra Prabhu currently conducts weekly Bhagavad Gita study groups as well as Srimad Bhagavatam lectures via Zoom at ISKCON Philadelphia and ISKCON Harrisburg. So let's all welcome Balabhadra Prabhu with a big Haribol. Thank you, Prabhu, for being over and spending the time for us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, it's fine. Hello, YouTubers. Hare Krishna. I spend most of my time on YouTube. So thank you all for being here tonight, and very happy to be a part of your program. And very, as I've said many times to Mataji about GitaWise, how impressed I am with especially the young people involved in GitaWise. GitaWise, what do you mean by that?
We want to be wise with Gita knowledge.
From the Bhagavad Gita.
From Bhagavad Gita,
Yeah,
yes.
because there's wisdom in the material world, and you get it from repeatedly doing something. Okay, if you start some project and you keep doing it, and you discover things about it, that's called wisdom. You know what it is to do, but then you're not sure exactly of the outcome. But once you see the outcome, it becomes wisdom. So in life, we're not sure exactly what to do, especially starting from young ages. So not really sure. And then as we grow older, and our parents and our teachers, they guide us, then we get knowledge. Then when that knowledge is something that we've experienced, becomes wisdom. So GitaWise, be wise from the Bhagavad Gita. Now that brings the whole question of our discussion tonight. How much value, as you were saying about your work, how much value does the Bhagavad Gita play in our lives? Or is it just something that we read and we study and we learn some verses and some philosophical points? Or is it something that can really impact, how old are you? Can it really touch her life? She's only 7. So the question is, what can Bhagavad Gita do for a 7-year-old? I was being interviewed the other day on, as I mentioned, it's called CITTI Media. It's an Indian media from India and England. So we were talking about different points like that, value. What is the actual value? So I explained a little story to this nice gentleman who was interviewing me. I said, okay, Bhagavad Gita is very practical, 7 years old. Right? So I said, there's a young girl in Atlanta, she's 9 years old. And she just started school again. And then she was having problems being bullied. You ever have any bullies in school? You're lucky. So the bullies were giving her a hard time. But the problem was, she was saying that there's this Spanish one, and there's this African American one, and there's this Indian one. I said, hey. I said, go get me the Bhagavad Gita. She said, okay, Prabhu. I said, okay, you turn to chapter, I believe it's chapter 5. Who has a Bhagavad Gita? Who has a copy of Bhagavad Gita? I saw one Mataji walk in with Bhagavad Gita.
I have many upstairs.
Yeah, no problem.
We can do online.
So Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, I believe it's 18. Let me make sure. Let me just make sure. Yes. Yes. Chapter 5, verse number 18. You want to look it up. I'm just trying to give you a practical example of how you can apply Bhagavad Gita as a 7-year-old. What's your name? Neha? Beautiful. You? Swara. And you? Priya. Priya? Oh, Ria. And you? Sarayu. Love it. Nice names. So can they use this Bhagavad Gita? Yes. So I was explaining to this young girl, I said, go get me the Bhagavad Gita, or I said, go get the Bhagavad Gita. And I want you to read this verse. So who found the verse? Who found it? Okay, please read it. Yeah, read it. Sanskrit and English. English translation.
The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see equal vision, a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, objects.
So let me ask you guys a question. So I told this young girl, because she was saying there's a Spanish one causing me trouble, this is Indian one causing me trouble, there's a black one causing me trouble, all these people. So you just heard what was said, right? Did you hear it? So does that help her understand how to work with all of her friends in school? Think about it. In other words, she sees her friends in school as not the body. That's the secret. Because now she's seeing the different bodies, and that's causing too much stress. So the Bhagavad Gita can help us get past stress, even as a child. Because we know in the histories of our culture, meaning the Vedic culture, there are many children. Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, even Krishna came as a young boy. So all these things they learned how to deal with this very complicated world. We were just saying how complicated the world is. But if Bhagavad Gita remains just a Hindu scripture, ancient literature, but it's nothing that we can apply at work or at school, then it's very difficult to follow. So we have to see where is the value in Bhagavad Gita. So let me ask, because this is going to be more of an interactive session, because she asked me to do a summary of the second chapter, which we'll get to in a second. So how are we to understand this? What is your basic understanding of Bhagavad Gita? I asked this question once in Atlanta at the temple. I said, what's the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita? I'm not going to give the answer. What's the answer? First lesson of Bhagavad Gita. Anyone? Raise your hand and say. First lesson.
But I can tell what I learned from Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
Gratitude. Every day when I do gratitude, I'm so happy. My happiness is gratitude. And my Krishna energies are around me. When I do my meditation, I keep him in my light up in my heart and do meditation. It helps me so much. I can feel that God gave me everything. I don't have any complaints after I started Bhagavad Gita and the bhajans from Aruna classes. So that's what I learned. I'm applying every day. I'm having peace of mind. I don't have any complaints now. I see a lot of positives every day.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So here's one understanding.
That is my understanding.
So again, what's the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita? Just share your thought. First lesson. First lesson of the Bhagavad Gita. What do you think? Just take a guess. First lesson. How to eat a nice pakora. Anyone? First lesson. Because Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. Okay? First is Sanjay. Yes, go ahead.
I think it's about your duty and your work,
Okay.
and you're here for a reason and you work, but you always keep Krishna in mind and you work towards attaining Krishna. And I think Krishna tells that to Arjuna as well, do your duty.
That's good. Because most people say that. Dharma. What else?
In not this body?
You knew that answer. That is the first lesson. And that's in the chapter we're studying tonight, second chapter. Because this is the point at which Arjuna ran out of excuses. First chapter, he made a lot of excuses why not to fight. I think you probably already went through the first chapter. From the very beginning, he's saying, Krishna, draw my chariot between the two armies so I can see who has come here to fight. Up to that point, he was ready to fight. It's like a boxer goes into the ring and he's ready to fight until the guy punches in the face and says, oops, and he go back home. So Arjuna went into the battle of Kurukshetra, or the field of Kurukshetra. He went to that field with the intention of fighting. He had no idea not to fight. But what happened? when he saw on the other side people that he had attachment to, Dronacharya, Bhishma, who else was on the other side? Of course, Duryodhana was on the other side, but he was kind of a bad guy. Who else is on the other side?
All the cousins.
All the cousins and Bhishma. Who is Bhishma? You don't disrespect your grandpa. I'm a grandpa, okay? So you don't disrespect your grandpa. In our culture, no way. And it also says in Bhagavad Gita, a superior should not even be offered a verbal fight. What to speak of killing them. So Arjuna was faced with the dilemma that I have to participate in these people dying? Do you know how many people died at Kurukshetra? Anyone have an idea? 640 million people died on that battlefield.
Then that's twice the population of this.
That's why Yudhisthira at the end was very, very unhappy. So many people died for me to become the king. He didn't like that at all. Very difficult. So that attachment that Arjuna had in the first chapter is also somewhat confusing because he is a Kshatriya. What is a Kshatriya? Who knows? Kshatriya.
Warrior.
He's a warrior. You said that, right? You said, oh, you said, I said, okay. A warrior. So it's a fighter. So he's expected to fight. But he's saying, I don't want to fight. Why? Because on the other side are my relatives. That means attachment. So the first lesson of the Gita is, you're not this body. And neither are the other persons their bodies. Of course, that is not an excuse to go and kill people, saying, oh, they're not their body, I'm just going to kill them. That's not acceptable. But there's a process of getting free from that attachment that's causing us pain. Attachment is what's causing us pain. This is all described in Bhagavad Gita. That's why I'm saying Bhagavad Gita is not just a book of poetry or Hindu phrases or Sanskrit. It's not. Turn to the first verse. I don't know the exact number. Look up chapter 1, verse 1. It's probably what page is that? Can someone find the page?
Tell the page number.
Page number in the yellow book is...
31 on this one.
Yeah, that's the one. You found it?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want you to read the verse, I just want you to read the purport. I'll tell you when to stop. So everyone listen, please. So see, how to read Bhagavad Gita, how to study Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says in the first few lines, so you have to listen, go ahead.
Bhagavad Gita is the widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita
Mahatmya.
Mahagna, glorification of Gita. There it says that one should read Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna and try to understand it without personally motivated interpretations.
So stop right there. So what did it say? I can guarantee you, because I didn't really recognize the word myself in the beginning, scrutinizingly. He's telling us you should read it scrutinizingly. So if I ask you, what does that word mean? I'm not going to put you on the spot because I really didn't know what it meant at first.
Try to comprehend every...
Who said detail? Detail. In great detail. You say scrutinize. If I ask you to scrutinize something, that means don't go just look at it and walk away. Say it's blue. No, you go and you look. What is it made of? Just like in where is it? Not Russia, but where is the war going on? Ukraine. So there was some problem with the nuclear plants. So they don't trust the Ukrainians and they don't trust the Russians. They sent in the specialists who would go there and scrutinize. So I saw the report today, and the head of the atomic energy said, we're going to stay here, and scrutinize this place. So what did Prabhupada just say? What did he just say? How do you read Bhagavad Gita? Yeah. Scrutinizingly. With scrutiny. That's another way they phrase it. Scrutiny. You don't just, they say like a cursory kind of understanding. Just look at it quickly. You don't just look at Bhagavad Gita and just go on. Scrutinize every word, every phrase, because it is essential to your happiness. Mataji was saying about happy, how you feel. I could tell because the way you were singing, I could feel your happiness is definitely there, you know. So we look at Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly, as Prabhupada says in the very first paragraph. I guarantee most people read past that, they go jumping. But don't scrutinize. So we have to scrutinize. Arjuna is a Kshatriya. Let's use some scrutiny here. Why is he lamenting when he's supposed to do his job? His job is to fight. So what is his problem? Someone would say, what is your problem? You're a Kshatriya. And that's what Krishna is actually saying. What is your problem? How has this attitude come upon you? It doesn't befit a person who knows the progressive values of the life. Do you know what that means? That means Aryan, A-R-Y-A-N. Unfortunately, the word Aryan has been co-opted by the most ridiculous people you can imagine. Aryan nation. You know, one of the biggest, baddest, most horrible gangs in the world is in a prison, and they're called the Aryan nation? What? Aryan means one who knows the progressive values of life and participates in the culture that puts that out. Just like Prabhuji was explaining that one of my main services right now is the president of the Vedic Friends Association. And the Vedic Friends, we have scholars from all over the world. Some of them you may have heard of, like David Frawley is one of the most renowned American Hindu scholars. He has that Padma Bhushan. You know what that Padma Bhushan?
Yeah.
He achieved this Padma Bhushan. Very few people.
Can
So
you
he's
repeat the name?
Huh?
Can you repeat the name?
David
Uh-huh.
Frawley. Yes. And then there's also Kavindra Rishi, Jeffrey Armstrong. He's very well known, from Canada. He's a disciple of Prabhupada as well. And they really have scrutinized this culture. Actually, Jeffrey Armstrong is writing 2 books right now. And one of them is the 100 colonizing words. Like in our books, words that we use generally comes from the colonization of India. Like, when we say God, that's not our word. What is our word? We don't say God. What do we say? Bhagwan. What does Bhagwan mean? Let's break it down. Bhaga, one. Bhaga means opulence, and Van, V-A-N, means one who possesses. So the one who possesses all the opulence is called the President of the United States. No. It's called Narendra Modi. All due respects. He's a very opulent man, but he doesn't control all the opulence. The one who controls and has all the opulence, that's Bhagwan. So Jeffrey is explaining that this word God is not sufficient. It's like Dharma. What does Dharma mean? What does Dharma mean? D-H-A-R-M-A, Dharma.
Duty.
Don't be scared, we're family.
Duty.
Someone says duty, what else?
Righteousness. Be righteous.
Righteous, what else?
Yes,
Truthful.
Truthful? Good. But Dharma means the essential principle of a thing. Like water. What is the essential principle of water? Liquidity. It's wet, it moves. But when it no longer moves, what is it called? Ice. So now it's changed. Fire has a quality which you cannot change. What is that quality you cannot change about fire? Probably some of the kids touched fire and they got burnt. So the parents said, don't touch it, don't touch it. Say, I don't see it, it's very bright. It's hot. So Dharma doesn't mean, as we think, duty and all these things. It means the essential principle which cannot be changed. And the Dharma for the soul is what? And it's going to come up in the 2nd chapter toward the end. That's why it's called the contents of the Gita summarized. Our duty is to serve Bhagwan. Because Bhagwan is giving us everything. How many of you have a bill that you pay every month for the air you breathe? Think about it for 1 second. One of the most essential things you need, and you'll die if you don't get it, it's called air, right? You know how to breathe, we all breathe. And the breathing is so, it's called like, what's that phrase that they use in biology, involuntary reflex or something like that? It's just like, it just happens. You don't stop and think, I'm gonna breathe. Unless you're doing pranayama, then you do all this.
Leaving subconsciously.
Yeah, it's just happening. You need it. If you don't have it, you'll die. But you don't have to pay for it. Who's giving it to you? Well, we think it's Forsyth County or DeKalb County, because we pay different bills. You don't have to pay a bill for that. That's why Krishna actually says, and it's explained that the peace formula, Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Shuridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatvam Shantim Richiti. Suridam. Suri means a friend, but the best kind of friend. Not the friend that's your friend when you give them something. I had a lot of friends before I joined the temple. Until I stopped doing what they were doing and then said, I don't like you anymore because you don't give me what I had before. The happiness you were giving me before, I don't like you anymore. Krishna is called Suri. And without going too technical in all the Sanskrit, because I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, I'll say it up front, I'm not. But I understand some things. So he's the kind of friend that you don't have to give anything to that person. That person gives you everything you need. And that's God, or Bhagwan. So the first lesson being, we're not this body. So what we're going to do is look a little bit at this second chapter. And I extracted something from the Mayapur Academy, where they teach all this Bhakti Shastri, all those different things. And that's a very nice overview of the second chapter. And really there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points that encapsulates the whole chapter. Now that's very fascinating. And it spells out verses that are, I need someone who can help me when I ask for a verse. Can you do that for me? You're my assistant today? Okay, good. So beginning with Arjuna's further doubts and surrender. So that means he had doubts in the beginning, in the first chapter. I don't want to fight because on the other side are so many different persons, relatives, teacher. Dronacharya is his teacher. He has to fight him. That's pretty heavy. Wow. So at the end of the first chapter, what does Arjuna say? I'm just not going to fight. I'm done. So in the second chapter, he still has doubts. Doubts are not over yet. And it's very interesting. If you go to chapter 2, where's my assistant? Chapter 2, verse number 2. Chapter 2, verse 2. You got it? Read it. Just the English.
The translation.
Yes.
The Supreme Personality of God had said, My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to the higher planets, but to infinity.
So in the Sanskrit, it says, Anarya Jushtam Aswargya. Anarya means you're not acting like an Arya. Anarya, sorry. Anarya Justam Aswargya. Swarga means the heavenly world. So for a Kshatriya to die in battle is the greatest thing because they're guaranteed to go to the heavenly world. So Krishna's telling them, you won't go to the heavenly world by your acting like a non-Aryan. So that means Arjuna is still confused. So that that's also a subtle point. Why would Krishna tempt his devotee with the opulence of going to heaven when we don't want to go to heaven? We want to go to Krishna's kingdom. So why is Krishna doing that? I'll give you a hint. He's testing Arjuna. What do you really want, Arjuna? Do you want to enjoy? You want to go to heaven? I can give you anything. But that's not what Krishna wants. So then, 2:4, the 4th verse. You're such a good assistant. I'm going to take you with me everywhere. So this one relates to doubts. See, Arjuna has further doubts. So read the English.
Arjuna said, O killer of enemies, O killer of mothers, how can I counter-attack with arrows and battle men like Bhishma and Drona who are worthy of my worship?
So you see, first chapter he had doubts. Second chapter he still has doubts. Now, number 7. This number 7 is such an important verse. It's like a pivot in this Balabhadra. Number 7.
Now I'm confused about my deity and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I'm your disciple and your soul surrendered unto you.
Please instruct me. So he's saying, Sishastiham, Salimam, Tvam Prapana. I'm surrendered. I am surrendering unto you, is what Arjuna is saying, but, let's see, where is that one verse? And I find this quite humorous when I think about what happened just after that. So now take notice. He said he surrendered, right? He's asking Krishna to instruct him. So we all agree with that, right? But then right before Krishna starts to really instruct him, he says another thing. I didn't write that one down, but I know it. He says, right after the one you just read, yes. I can find no means to drive away this grief, which is drying up my senses. This is verse number 8. I will not be able to dispel it, even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. And then Sanjaya says, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, this is verse 9. What does it say at the end of that verse?
I shall not fight.
Say it loudly.
I shall not fight.
You don't sound like you're really serious. Govinda, I shall not fight. Say it like that. This acting class, go ahead.
I shall not fight.
You gotta hit your hand down like that. Govinda, I shall not fight. But he just said, Sishastiham Salimam Tvam Prapanam. What sense does that make? I am your soul surrendered. Please instruct me, but I'm not gonna fight, no matter what you say.
You talk as if you're talking to your brother.
But that's a good point. He's talking to Krishna because Krishna's part of the Sarthi. What is he doing? He's a chariot driver. But he's Bhagavan, but he's chariot driver. So Arjuna said, my cousin, brother-in-law, hey, come on, Krishna, I'm just not going to do it. Later on, he realized, oh my God, this is 11th chapter. Oh my God, I didn't know. I didn't realize. I spoke to you in so many ways, sitting on the bed together, talking. I didn't realize. No, we won't, that's too far ahead. That's the 11th chapter. But here, look at what happened. Sishastiham Salimam. I'm a Sisha now. I'm your disciple. Instruct me. It's like you said, I got initiation from Prabhupada in 1974. And really, I didn't have a chance to talk to Prabhupada at all this time. But he only gave me 2 instructions. 2. He said, okay, what are the 4 rules? He said, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, no meat eating. And positively, chant 16 rounds every day. Now, when I got initiated in 1974, there was probably 50 or more devotees there. So the first one who went up to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada asked this question, what are the 4 rules? And he knew that. Then Prabhupada said, and positively, that devotee was confused. Positively, what does that mean? 16 rounds every day. Oh, because you'll find many times, don't do this, don't do that, don't smoke, don't drink, don't do. So, what should you do? There's one song, you know, this Baja Hure Mana. Who knows that song? Baja Hure Mana, Sri Nanda Nandana, Abhaya Charanada, Bindure. So this Govinda Das who wrote this song, he's telling the mind, okay, stop, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. So humorously, the mind said, Govinda, okay, what do you want me to do? You tell me not to do, what should I do? What is that? Shravana Kirtana, Smarana Bandhana, Pada Sevana, Dasare. So he's telling the mind, hear and chant the glories of the Lord. That's what you do positively. So when Prabhupada asked positively, finally told him 16 rounds. So hearing Prabhupada's instructions, my duty now is to do what? Follow. If I want to say I'm a Sisha, disciple means discipline. Most people don't understand that. And neither did Arjuna understand it. Because he said, Govinda, I shall not fight. And I want to be your disciple, but I'm not going to fight. That means no matter what you tell me, I'm not doing it. What kind of disciple is that? So this is very interesting. So then Krishna, going forward into this second chapter, then Krishna begins to instruct him. And one of the first things Krishna says is second chapter, verse number, I think it's 11. Yeah, verse 11. Okay, my assistant, go for it. Translation.
The Supreme Personality of God had said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead.
So now that's a very tough instruction. Because suppose someone dies in your family. You're not supposed to lament. Like my mother died in 1970. And these all these years I had not been with her. And I have a picture in my wall. I always look every day. I offer incense to her every day. Because I miss her. I've been chanting Hare Krishna 16 rounds for almost 50 years and I still miss my mother. Yes. Why should I lie to you and say, no, I don't lament for the living or the dead? Not true. But that's what Krishna's telling Arjuna. It's a mindset. Don't think for 1 second you're not going to have emotional ties to your family for most of your life. Even if you practice this 100%, it will still be there to some degree. But it's a mindset. The mindset is that this person's not their body, I'm not my body. But still I have to do my duties in life. Raise my children, do my work, like you were saying, they keep a scrutinizing eye on you, checking, okay, you're doing work good, okay. That's just part of life. So Krishna's telling Arjuna like that. So he's actually criticizing him to some degree. Why are you lamenting like this? Those who are wise, that means you're not wise. GitaWise. You're not wise. You're lamenting for the living or the dead. Don't lament. Now, this one here, text 12. Now listen very carefully to these words in text 12.
Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be.
What do you think, what does that mean to you? That you just read, what does it say to you?
We've always existed.
Listen, wise, wisdom, just that quick. We have always existed. Now Krishna's going to prove it. Let's go on to the next verse. For this one here, we have to repeat the Sanskrit, because at some point we need to learn this one. You know how to do the little Sanskrit? Can you read it?
Yeah.
Say each word slowly.
Dehinosmin yata dehe.
Together. Dehinosmin yata dehe.
Kaumaram
Yom jara.
Kaumaram yauvanam jara.
Tata dehantara praptir.
Tata dehantara praptir.
Dhirastatra namuhyati.
Dhirastatra namuhyati. Translation.
As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change.
Dhira means sober, very sober. So he's proving there what he just said in the other verse. He's saying, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all the kings on this battlefield. Now he's explaining. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body. She's 7 years old. Yeah, I'm 70 years old. That's a long way from 7. But I used to be 7. You can't believe. She said, I don't believe that. You're an old guy, come on. But I used to be 7. You know what? I remember the first day in school. I don't remember much else, but I remember the first day in school. You know why I remember that? Because my mother bought me some new blue jeans. And the smell of blue jeans is like beautiful. Everything else kind of blocked out. But where's that 5-year-old body, 6-year-old body? Gone. So then I graduated from high school. Where's that 18, 19-year-old body? Gone. Then where's my 30-year-old body? Gone. Like I look at my son. My son is 51 years old. And my grandson is 28. And I look at these guys and I go, oops. I guess I am getting old. But where is that body? I had a 28-year-old body. That's when I was, singing in the nightclubs and the concerts and all that business, doing music. And I can look back and I can almost see that body. But where is it? It's gone. And when I wake up in the morning, the knees are hurting, the neck is hurting. What happened? I'm moving through this body. I can remember all those changes, right? I can see, yes, that was me. Like Prabhupada gives the example, if you see the film in a movie, and if they slow it down, you see each frame. You see the man with arms like this, arms like that, arms like that, and when you put it all together, it goes like that. So they forget there's like 1 million frames. How many frames are in a movie? That movie's like 2 hours long, thousands of frames. Your life, 50 years, 70 years, 100 years, many frames in your life. And if you just stop and look back and go, wow, I am still here. My body has changed. The only thing that changes is my body. So I have a choice. I can try to identify it with 7-year-old and try to stay 7. That looks kind of weird. you find people like that, they try to live that youth again, you know. Put on the kind of young people's clothes and the young people say, that dude is crazy. Come on, just grow up. Because we are growing. And Krishna said it in that verse. It's such a powerful verse. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body. So in this part of the Gita, which is the, no problem, it's beautiful music. So then, from verse 11 to verse 30, you can make a note of that. Verse 11 to 30 is all about the soul. But I don't want to go through all those verses, too many, and our time does not permit. Let me take you to verse number 220. A pretty famous verse, 220. And some of you may know that one. You see it?
Yeah.
Do you know the Sanskrit? Yeah.
Najayate priyate va kadachin. Nayam bhutva bhavita va bhuyaha ajva nitya shashvato yam purano nahamyate hanimane sarishri.
Translation.
For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, he has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain.
Okay, what's the explanation?
Soul never dies.
Simple. Simple. I mean, you don't make it complicated. There's an acronym, KISS. Now, we won't say it the way people know. You know what I'm saying, right? We're not going to use that one. We turn it around. Instead of saying keep it simple, we say keep it simple, sadhus. Because the biggest problem for sadhus is keeping it simple. They can give you Sanskrit and they can give you this, there's so many things, and your brain is like, okay. It's not touching you, just like when Dhruva Maharaj, you know the story of Dhruva? So when Narada Muni came to him, Narada is the saint, and he's giving him instruction, go home, you're too young, come back when you're older. He said, Guru Maharaj is very nice, but I can't hear it right now. You know, I don't want to hear that, I want something else. So this idea that we're not the body, we're spirit, soul is very difficult to comprehend. Very difficult to comprehend. But she just understood in one phrase, by keeping it simple. The idea in speaking, whenever you speak, is to make sure people understand what you said. And if you have to simplify it down to a few words, that's why we're very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada came to America. Okay, because some other Indian Swamis had come, but it was too complicated. So Prabhupada, when he was on the boat, he prayed for something specific. He said, most of the people here are in ignorance and passion, forgetting you. But you're the mystic, my Lord. You put them into ignorance, okay? You put them into this ignorance, and you can take them out. So I'm praying, I'm asking you, Lord, make my words suitable for their understanding. You follow that? Make my words suitable for their understanding. Just like if you have to correct your children, and you use very, sophisticated words, they're not going to understand. You have to make it simple. So we're all like little children trying to understand this incredible culture and philosophy. We need to be very, very simple. So Krishna's giving examples that we can identify with. I know we're not going to be able to finish the whole thing, but I want to hear you read the next verse, which would be 224. No, I'm sorry. 222. This is a very nice example. You can do the Sanskrit if you like, because you're doing really good on it.
Vasam sijirnani yata vihaya navani krishnati naroparani tata sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi.
Translation.
As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones.
Explanation.
The soul gets new bodies like how we get new clothes.
See? You should be sitting here and I was sitting there. Or it's just boom. It's not complicated. Why do we make it so complicated? I need to do this and study that and go here and go. No, you know, one time the devotee said, I want to learn Hindi, as American devotee. I said, you go to Bombay, they speak English, don't waste time. Don't waste time. If you have a talent, use it for Krishna. If you have money, use it for Krishna. If you have intelligence, use it for Krishna. So then, as I said, we don't have time to go through everything, but I want to go quickly to the part that talks about Buddhi Yoga, and it describes about devotional service. So I was surprised because I've reading these books so long. And we think devotional service comes in which chapter? The 12th chapter. It's called devotional service. So it would appear that Krishna didn't talk about devotional service in the beginning, but this is the Gita summarized. Contents of the Gita summarized. So it had to be in there. I just said, where was it in there? Where's devotional service in the second chapter? Because it's all about the body, you're not the body, blah, 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 blah. So look, verse number, chapter 2, text 49, 50, and 51, just in English. 49, 50, 51. And listen, everyone, very close, because now we'll see where devotional service is in the second chapter.
All keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers.
Keep going. Next one.
A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions, even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work.
Next one.
By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to God.
So now, this is the second chapter. So my question is, what is devotional service? We're going to finish with that thought. What is devotional service? Anyone?
Serving Krishna. Serving Krishna.
Good point. What is devotional service? More. I want more.
Surrendering.
Chanting.
Yeah, all these are good points. But if you just take the two words and just say devotional service, that means what?
Service with devotion.
Come sit here. You're unbelievable. I mean, we're just like, you know, service with devotion. So let's go all the way to the 10th chapter, 10:10. I believe it's 10:10. We're going to finish with that one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 10:10. Yes. And I want the Sanskrit for that one. Okay, now I just want you to find the word priti purvakam in the word for word. You see the word for word? What does it mean, priti?
Loving ecstasy.
See, devotional service means with love. If you say devotional service, service with devotion, that means with love. Like someone gave me this nice garland. You know, it's nice. It's with some love and appreciation. So how are you supposed to serve Krishna? See, this is the whole idea. We're talking the contents of this whole Gita's in the second chapter. So he's talking about devotional service. But notice, Krishna didn't say that devotional service unto me. He said unto the Lord. Because he's still realizing Arjuna doesn't understand he's the Lord yet. So he's giving him the peripheral kind of little bit of the understanding. So now in this 10th chapter, he's saying, before the devotional service chapter, he's giving how to do it. Bhajitam, priti purvakam. Bhajitam means the devotions, devotional service. Priti, with love. So here's the secret. Here's our lesson for tonight. Easy lesson. Okay? Ready? I'm not, I forgot already. Whatever we do, whatever we offer, it should be done with love. Who knows that verse? I'm forgetting that verse now. Yes. Yo me bhakti. So what does it mean? Offer me fruit, flower, is that the one?
Yeah, leaf, fruit, flower, or water,
Love and devotion. So our lesson tonight is that, and what we're all going to try to do, including myself, I'll give you an example, mundane example that puts it in perspective. In business, because I studied business because I have to manage the temple and this and that. So they say in business, there's only one question you should ask every day. Who knows what the question is? One question. You want to be successful in business? What's the one question? Value is one. But then it says, how can I improve upon that which I do every day? So we do devotional service every day. How can I improve? Well, there's several ways. You can read these books. You can listen to Srila Prabhupada and those who follow Srila Prabhupada. You can look around and you can see the world around you. You can see examples within the world itself. It's there. So I want to improve. We want to improve. That's why you're all sitting here on the floor, hoping you get some prashadam. But I heard some news you may not get prashadam. Because one senior Prabhupada disciple, he said, we do our service, we do our devotion service, and we hope we'll get some prashadam. Quick story. One time I didn't get prashadam. We were selling Prabhupada's books in Charleston, South Carolina, in a parking lot. Now, you probably don't know about Kmart, all you know is Walmart. But we had Kmart. We called it Krishna Mart. They still have? So I'm selling books all by myself in Charleston, South Carolina in 1970 something. And the racial thing was all there. There's all kinds of stuff going on. But I was by myself. So the person who took us all out to the different locations, he put us out of the van. We're all selling Prabhupada's books. And I'm looking, my God, it's like 8 o'clock and I hadn't had any prashadam yet. I'm starving. And it's like 9 o'clock, no prashadam. He was responsible to feed us. 9:30, he shows up. Okay, prabhus, we have to go to bed now, it's too late. No prashadam. We were like, what? So we hope there'll be some prashadam, right? But, si shasti ham sarimam tvam prapanam. Disciple says, if the guru doesn't call me, then I don't eat. You ready for that one? So be careful if you say to the spiritual master, I want to be your disciple. He might say, okay, fine, you don't get to eat today. Or I want you to go like Prabhupada. I want you to go to England and open temple. And these people go, what? Never been out of San Francisco. I want you to go to India now and open temples. Then he told these two devotees in Mayapur. In Mayapur in the 70s was a big field of mosquitoes. You know, you go to Bengal, is that, you know, with all the Ganges and all that, mosquitoes everywhere. I've been there, I know. It's funny, mosquitoes in Mayapur. Today when you're leaving, I think they know that day. They really attack you the day you're leaving. It's amazing. I said, what's going on here? What did I do? So he told these two devotees, Jayapataka Swami, some of you may have met, and Bhavananda Swami. He said, I'm giving you the spiritual world. And they said, but there's a field of mosquitoes, Prabhupada. But you go there now, they're building one of the biggest temples in the world where that field of mosquitoes was. Because they followed what Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said, do it, and they gave their whole life to make it happen. So it's incredible. So if we just serve the Lord with love and do things according to Bhagavad Gita, we'll find all the happiness, like Mataji was saying. The happiness that she has is enough. If you don't get anything else, she said, I'm not having enough. That's also explained in Bhagavad Gita. One who is happy within, who rejoices within, there's no more duty. Someone was saying about your work, I think you mentioned about your work. And if you enjoy your work, there's no more work. Like when I do music, no problem. I can go in my room for 10 hours. Don't eat, don't sleep, nothing. Because I love doing music for Krishna. Just don't forget it. And I was, oh my God, it's like, I'm hungry. So if we serve Krishna, we'll forget about the body. We'll forget about all these things. But we won't neglect our responsibilities. It's very important to remember that. Because sometimes you don't want to teach your children too much about this philosophy because you're afraid they won't understand and they'll, you know, no. You have to teach the understanding, the wisdom part of it. Do your, whatever your talent is, do that. But do it for Krishna. So let's finish with Arjuna. I told you 640 million people had to die. Right? 640 million. And Krishna's telling Arjuna, fight and think of me. Wow. Which one of us has that big of a responsibility? We have our responsibilities. Can we do it and think of Krishna? What's the answer? Go back to my assistant here. What's the answer? Can we go to school and think of Krishna?
Maybe.
She's smart. She's saying maybe because it's difficult. It's not easy, right? But can we try?
Yeah.
That's it. Can we all try when you go to work?
Yeah.
I know it's the weekend, holidays and all that. Oh, it's a holiday. Can we think of Krishna while we're enjoying this Labor Day? Yes. And tomorrow is very special, which is?
Radhashtami.
You can think of Radharani tomorrow, right? Hey Radhe, Rajadev, okay, so the Goswamis are looking for Radharani everywhere in Vrindavan. She's so special, so wonderful. So we'll stop there. I think we maybe have a couple of minutes if we have any comments or questions really quick.
So we can even go longer, Prabhu.
I'm fine, you know.
Yes, yes. So,
Anyone has a comment or question?
It's very, thank you for the wonderful talk.
Thank you, Linda.
It's very practical and you explain so simply. And it's very easy to connect.
And that's the goal. That's what I prayed for before I came. I said, pray my
When we
will.
read translations, we feel, oh, there is a lot of meaning, but if you put it in simple words.
It's like we started out just describing GitaWise, and she explained GitaWise. So this wisdom of the Gita is practical. Why? Why is it practical? That's another question. Why is the Bhagavad Gita practical? This gentleman who was interviewing me was asking this question. You know, what is the practical nature of this philosophy? So why is the Bhagavad Gita practical? Or is it something that we can incorporate into our life? Bhagavad Gita. Why is it practical? Who can say? What do you say? Why is it practical? The Bhagavad Gita, why is it practical? Yes. I heard
It's
something.
mostly connected to our everyday life,
Yes, we're getting there.
so we can connect better.
Yes.
Yeah, basically for any problem or any person, they have the solution. There is a solution in the book.
Then I keep putting that why. Because the Bhagavad Gita,
spoken
just
by
look at
friends.
the picture.
Yes.
It's a
Spoken.
battlefield. Battlefield. And this poor Arjuna, he's sitting there all freaked out. Govinda, I just can't do it, I don't know. And Govinda's looking back smiling. You're speaking learned words, but you're mourning for that which is not worthy of grief. In other words, you're a fool. So Prabhupada jokingly says, the first instruction really was, Arjuna, you're a fool. Because you're lamenting for that which is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise, GitaWise, lament neither for the living or the dead. But we still have emotions. And Krishna gives us, he allows us to have emotions and feelings and love. It's like when you read in the Srimad Bhagavatam with Queen Kunti, and the way she's describing, I was listening to Srila Prabhupada, and she says, just as the Ganges forever flows to the sea, let my attraction only flow towards you. And the explanation is that her 5 sons, Arjuna, who else? Not who else?
Yudhishthir, Bhima, Nakula, Sahadev.
Nakula Sahadev. Nice music. So, that's her family. And she's telling Krishna, let my attraction flow to you without being diverted to anyone else. Just let it flow to you. But still she loves her sons. Don't think when Kunti didn't love her sons. But she said, on top of loving my sons, I want you. So on top of all your relationships, husband, wife, children, all that business, which you cannot avoid, it's part of life, just add Krishna on top. Start your day with Krishna. When I roll out of my bed finally, first thing I do is offer obeisances to Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya and Krishna. Like that, just get your mind started in the beginning, early morning, whenever you wake up, whatever time it is, doesn't matter. Suppose you wake up at 9 o'clock, I don't know, maybe you go to bed at 2 o'clock working, who knows? But when you get up, first thing you should do, what's the first thing we should do when we get up?
Offer obeisances.
Yeah, offer some respect. Just say the names of the Lord. Krishna. Everyone say Krishna.
Krishna.
So let's put it all together.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
I think we can all say that in the morning. How long did that take? 3 or 4 seconds? We can all do that. And guess what? Your day will be amazing like Maji's. What's your name, Maji?
Usha.
Usha! I don't have time to tell that whole story. Usha and Aniruddha. From the Krishna, you know that story? I'm not going to tell it. It's a long story. Usha and Aniruddha. You know Aniruddha. Who's Aniruddha?
Aniruddha is a grandson of Krishna.
It's a beautiful
Pradyumna's
story
son.
about Usha and Aniruddha. Oh my God. You can tell that story sometime.
Yes.
So we can all say Hare Krishna mantra one time. The secret is focus on each syllable. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now if you can hear just that one mantra, I promise you your day will be really nice. But the problem is, the moment we say Hare Krishna, the mind goes, I gotta go to work. I'm hungry. Well, whatever, just meditate. Whenever you chant Bhajitam Priti Purvakam, you apply that same principle that you read, with love. Bhajitam Priti Purvakam. Chanting should be done with love. It's not an abstract. I gave a talk in Philadelphia one time at the Rath Yatra, and they asked me to speak on the holy name to a group of people, like 50 people. None of them are Hare Krishna, just people who came to the festival. And I'm explaining about the holy name. You probably heard this before. I said, when you're chanting the names of Krishna, Krishna is dancing on your tongue. You didn't get a big reaction though. The next day at the temple, I gave the lecture for the Sunday feast. And one young lady who was at that little talk, she said, I have a question, I have a statement. Yesterday you said that if I say Hare Krishna, Krishna is dancing on my tongue, I have to come and find out what you mean by that. I was like, wow, somebody really heard. A lot of times people don't hear. When I was with Srila Prabhupada, we were with Prabhupada in New Delhi at the Ramlila Maidan. Is that how you say it? Ramlila Maidan in Delhi. So Prabhupada is speaking in Hindi for like 1, 2, 3, almost 4 days. I didn't hear Prabhupada speak a word of English. In Delhi, Modhinagar, and Aligarh, he only spoke Hindi. So this devotee, some of you have heard his name, Lokanath Swami, was serving Prabhupada. I was sitting on the stage, there were some other devotees. So he's trying to explain about actually hearing. And hearing means if you really heard, there's some action that comes after hearing. So Lokanath Maharaj got up and he was explaining that to the crowd. So he told one man in the audience, he just picked him up. He said something in Hindi, and the man came to the stage. He said, now you understand? He heard me. Because he did what I asked of him. So if we actually hear what Krishna's saying, it means that some action is required. The other day at the temple, we were celebrating Prabhupada's birthday, Vyasa Puja. So devotees were in the temple room, making all kind of noises and talking here, talking there. You know, ladies get together, they all talk to the girls. So they were talking right in front of these, in front of Prabhupada. I said, excuse me, because we're getting ready for Pushpanjali. You know what's Pushpanjali? Offering flowers to Prabhupada. Very sacred thing. So I said, excuse me. Prabhupada, let me ask one question. Is Prabhupada sitting there on that seat, or is he not sitting there on that seat? What's the answer?
He's sitting.
Oh!
Then
If he's sitting there, then why are you doing all this talking in the background? I said, I was here when he was sitting there. 500 devotees at least in that room. Hard to believe. I don't know how we did it. I think we just packed up. But when Prabhupada spoke, his presence, not a single sound came out of that room. So when I told the devotees that, I said, this is how you act in front of Prabhupada. Not like that. And on top of that, the deities are there. Same question, is Krishna on the altar or not? Yes or no?
yes.
Yes.
People are not sure what to say. Is Krishna in his deity?
Yes.
You know, there's some stories how Krishna, as a deity, got up and walked. Also in Vrindavan, what is that deity? Bhakti Vihari? Is that
Bhakti
his name?
Bihari, yes.
Bhakti Vihari. Because the story is something how
Yeah,
if you don't close the door fast enough, he walks away. Yeah. So this other story, what is this?
Sakshi Gopal.
Sakshi Gopal. That's too long of a story, she'll have to tell you sometime. But the deity actually walked from one place, 1,000 miles practically, with this devotee. Long walk. So Krishna, is he on the altar, yes or no? Yes. So if he's on the altar, how should you act? Arjuna asked this question to Krishna. Someone who's transcendental in consciousness, how should he walk? How should he sit? How should he speak? How should he act? And Krishna, of course, gives all the nice answers. So the point is, if we truly understand Krishna's presence, how should we act? So let me take it one step further, little step further. Who knows what the word namaste means? Namaste. What does it mean?
We bow down to you.
That's the action, but what does it mean? Huh?
In respect.
That's part of it. What else?
Keeping my ego down.
That's part of it. What else?
Greeting someone.
That's a nice one. That's cool. You know what it actually means? Now, there's a minister, Christian minister in Macon, Georgia, African American minister. And if you go look it up on Google, his church is called the Namaste Church.
Wow.
Why is it? So if you hear his little lecture, one Sunday he said, from now on in this church, we're all going to greet each other with namaste. Then he explains what it means in his understanding. It says, the spirit in me respects the spirit in you. Then he looked around at the young people, especially you young people. All this bad talk and all this rap music, you need to know this. The spirit in me respects the spirit in you. That will get rid of all this fighting and racism, all finished. Take it another step. Not only my spirit and your spirit, Jiva, Jiva means an individual spirit. But then who's the greater spirit?
Paramatma.
Paramatma. There's the Atma, the one, but Paramatma is everywhere. Now, you know how much space is that? Maybe about 8 inches, 10 inches? Do you know how many Paramatmas are in that space? How many of the Lord's expansion? Why? Because there are atoms in that space. And he goes within the atom. So he's in every atom. That means, oh my God, it means I got to think of him all the time. If you just logically think about it, he's in every atom. Wow. See, everyone's real quiet. I scared everybody. I said, you're not going to give them prashadam, so they're all kind of scared. But you have to think. You have to really think as you go through life. If you want to increase the quality of devotion service, think. Use your intelligence. See, we point to the head, or I point to the head. Actually, thinking doesn't happen here. Where does thinking happen? Who knows? Where is the mind? Heart. Don't be shy. Heart. The mind, the intelligence, the false ego is all there. The super soul is there. The soul, but it says in the region of the heart, not mixed up in the blood, okay? But in that region. So all these things. And chapter 15, go to that one. Chapter 15, verse 15. And I'll let you know a secret. I don't know a lot of verses, but the ones that I do keep me out of trouble. 15. Please read the Sanskrit and the English.
Sarvasya jahaspi samnivishto madhasputirjnanam apohanamcha
Vedaischa sarvairameva vedyo Vedanta krutveda videva chaham.
Translation.
I'm seated in everyone's heart, and from me came remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta. I'm the knower of the Vedas.
Everyone's heart. Remember the story I told you about the 9-year-old girl? She started forgetting that Krishna's in everyone's heart. She knows that. But she's like upset because she's being bullied. So if you're being bullied, should you forget Krishna? No. Who said? You said no? Smart. If someone's saying, happy birthday to you, should you forget Krishna? Well, you can still enjoy your birthday. If someone comes to me with cheesecake, guess what? No more Krishna. I'm just kidding. Because I know it's Krishna's prashadam. But I love cheesecake prashadam. Everyone that knows me knows that. I tell you a quick story. His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj, some of you may have heard about him. He's had so many strokes and kidney transplants, there's so many things. He was attacked in Spain, so many things. But every birthday for me, because he knows how much I love cheesecake, he will call me, he will write me, and this is what he said the last time when I turned 70. He said, I hope the technology is there one day that can send you cheesecake through the internet. I'm thinking, he's suffering so much, struggling. It takes 4 or 5 people to help him move. He's thinking of me and what I like so much. That's called love. That's real love. When you really care about someone and you express it. So when we're talking about Krishna, we have to express that love openly. My dear Lord, please allow me to serve you. my dear, just like when we say Hare Krishna means, my dear Lord, engage me in your service. So let's keep that in our mind. Vajitam, Priti Purvakam, with love. Whatever you do for Krishna, doesn't matter how big or small. Doesn't matter if you chant 1 round or 16. Nice to chant 16, but guess what? Prabhupada wanted us to chant 64. Okay, all right, 64 rounds. And they said, Swami, no, man, that's too much, because they were hippies, right? No, man, that's too much. Swami, man, okay. So then he said, okay, 32. Man, that's too much. He said, 16, no less. But if you chant one mantra purely, could that take you back to Godhead? What's the answer?
Yes.
Why? Because I'm supposed to chant 16. How this guy can chant one and go back to Godhead?
Because you have purity when you chant.
Wow. GitaWise. Vajitam Priti Purvakam, with love. This guy, his name is Ajanil, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto. The guy was so smart, like you do in India, he named his son Narayan. Some people name their son Krishna, they name it Radha, all these different names, right? But there's a reason why, and that story tells it. So at the time of his death, he was a Brahmin in the beginning and he fell down. And at the time of death, he's looking, and the Yamadutas, the agents of Yamaraj, are coming to drag him out. He's saying, Narayan! But he's pointing to his son. He's not thinking God. But he didn't make any offense. Purely, out of total, just unabashed surrender. Narayan! I was lucky to be in Philadelphia in 1975 when Prabhupada gave the Bhagavatam class on that verse. At that time, the book was not finished or published, so they had the manuscript. So they gave Prabhupada the manuscript, and he's reading. So the translation went, Narayan, Narayan, Narayan? And Prabhupada said, what is this? You correct this immediately. He only said one time Narayan, not 3 times. The devotees would think he must have said 3 times. 16 rounds. No, one time was enough to save him from being taken to hell. So remember that. Whenever you chant, a devotee said it many years ago, whenever you chant, chant nicely. That one chanting can save you. That one. It's good to chant 16. Some devotees chant more. You don't remember, what's his name? Nanda used to be in Atlanta. He was chanting 64 rounds every day, taking care of the deities, cooking everything. Because he's chanting all the time. But maybe you can only chant one. Maybe you can only chant one mantra. Do it. But do it with love. So, I'll stop. Anything else? I'm hungry too. No, seriously, anyone have another question or comment? Our host, you want to share any final thoughts?
Thank you very much for the introduction. I think I'm sure, just as you mentioned, everyone is able to connect to you and through you, Bhagavad Gita. And I'm sure if anyone has further questions, you can ask. I felt like that. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for all the work that you do to help the devotees. Yes, Prabhu.
I want to share something.
Yes.
It is a nice and beautiful class. Before the long weekend. I read the Bhagavad Gita, but I never see that each and every word as a scrutinizingly. That makes me like to think about it and read again with scrutinizingly. So.
And that's the first thing Prabhupada says in the first paragraph of the Bhagavad Gita. Scrutinize. So look that word up and get a deeper understanding of what that really means. One time we were reading some devotees and myself and the brahmacharis, and we came across the word tantamount. Tantamount. Anyone know what that means? Tantamount. Like for instance, if I say this over here is tantamount to this over here, it means equal.
Equivalent.
Same. But we didn't know that. So we're reading Prabhupada's book, and this word tantamount was like, what does that mean? Because there's no way to understand what Prabhupada's saying without understanding this word. And we didn't have the internet. We didn't have Google. We didn't have cell phones, so we had to go find a dictionary. And once we realized what that word meant, it opened up. Wow. So scrutinizing. I mean, how many of you read this Bhagavad Gita, but you probably just zip right past that word. And Prabhupada said, but you should read the Bhagavad Gita scrutinizingly. But if you don't know what that means, how you got that means maybe we're not reading it fully. So we look at all the words that really stand out, like this Vajitam Priti Purvakam, that will save you. That will make your devotion service special. Because you know, I'm supposed to clean this floor with love. Now, when we were with Prabhupada in Vrindavan, in the Krishna Balaram temple, he's giving a class. And he's trying to get the devotees to understand this point. So he says, you think that Krishna's on the altar, so you do nicely here. But you don't think that Krishna's on the floor, so you don't do nicely here. It's the same way you think here, you should think here, because what is this floor in the temple? That's a manifestation of Balaram, the altar. All Lord Balabhadra, he's serving Krishna. So when you're thinking, when you're cleaning the floor, this floor, or any floor, this energy, whose energy? Daivesha Gunamaya. It's divine energy of mine. This is my, Krishna says, it's my energy. But I'm thinking this is my energy. I'll do it this way, that way. See, that's our problem. We think it's us. But this is all Krishna. Divine energy. Quick example. I don't want to talk too much about the jailhouse, but the same materials in this house, they build the jailhouse. What is the difference? The jailhouse is meant for confinement and punishment. This house is meant for prashadam. And kirtan, and good association, but it's the same materials. Your school, it's the same materials that they use in the jail. The only difference is in your school that maybe nowadays they put bars in the school, I don't know. Because they're so afraid about people breaking in and shooting all this nonsense. So they want to put bars like a jail. It becomes like a jail with all these metal detectors and all that. But that's a different story. But this is all Krishna's energy. If we want to be happy, see Krishna everywhere in all his energy. Don't just see it in the temple. Don't just see it when someone's giving a lecture or talking. You have to practice this. It's not easy to be able to see Krishna everywhere. But the more you practice, it becomes natural. And on top of that, if you chant with some attention and love, oh, what happens? Cheto darpanam marjanam bhava mahada bhagmi navampadam. It says that all glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated. All these things that are bothering us, all clean away. And also in Bhagavatam, Nasta Praisa Bhadresu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, Bhagavati Tamasto, Bhaktir Bhavati Master. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, all the bad things and auspicious things in the heart become practically destroyed. And loving service to the Lord is established as an irrevocable fact. Look that word up. Irrevocable. It's like some of you, not, sure not you guys, but someone gets their license revoked. But what is irrevocable? You can't change it. So once you get that loving service in your heart, you can't take it away. But it takes work to get there. Regular. Satatam Kirtayantoma Yatantascha Vruddha Vrata. Strong vow. Every day. Satatam Kirtayan. Chant every day. As much as you can, whenever you can. But whenever you do, chant nicely. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare. Oh, you want to chant more?
We usually do 3 times, so we'll do 2 more.
Let's go.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,